out how they've just came out with the realization that psychedelics such as ketamine, DOI, DMT, psilocybin, and LSD help in neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is based on the Hebbian theory, which says that there's mental plasticity. Mental plasticity is saying that long-term depression, LTD, can turn to long-term potentiation, LTP. Long-term potentiation is the waking up of your dormant synapses. So let's get basically down to what synapses are and what this is all about. It's basically what all this research is about is fixing neurodegeneration, basically Alzheimer's disease, and as our brain breaks down as we get older. So what keeps us from having this is sleep. I connected sleep with Alzheimer's disease when I was 19 years old, when they had a show on deadly insomnia on 60 Minutes, where people didn't sleep until they died. They'd reach a certain age and then they could never sleep again, and they die from that. And I was shocked that the lack of sleep could kill you. But finally they found that it was all from one family in Italy, and they found a man that had it, and they watched him die. And then finally, they got to autopsy his brain. And when they autopsied his brain, they found that his brain was like Swiss cheese. And they made the comment that, hey, it's like Alzheimer's disease, an autopsied brain from Alzheimer's disease. And I was like, the lack of sleep, and because I know a few people that has Alzheimer's disease, and I realized they were all night owls that would stay up all night. And they didn't take many dreams. I asked them if they took naps or anything like that. So all of a sudden, this made perfect sense. So I started reading in, because I always thought about dreams as something that unclogged our brains. Because when we are dreaming, it takes, I think of dreaming and our brain, our unconscious mind and our conscious mind, like a telephone or a device and the cloud. Now, if we don't dream, all the things stay in our conscious mind. Now, you know when you don't sleep and you can't remember names and everything's on the tip of your tongue? Well, that's because you're clogged with all this information that isn't getting out of your mind. And when you sleep, it's something called pruning, synapsal pruning. And it is basically getting there's 5 stages of sleep. The first 4 are NREM sleep. And after that is REM sleep. But the first stage of NREM sleep gets rid of all the doubles. Like, that's why we don't remember all the different things we've eaten for breakfast during our whole life, because that would take up so much room. So we basically have an idea of what breakfast is, and all we need is the basic information of what breakfast is basically like. And that gets stored in the cloud, but we keep in our conscious mind what it's like to eat breakfast. All right? So when we get to REM sleep is when all those things that occur during the day, like that we watch TV, we never dream about things that we complete, an idea that's complete, because those things are already stored in the unconscious mind. But things like if we catch like the first half of Jaws, or we see something out of the corner of our eye, those are the things we'll dream about, because those ideas have not been fully thought out. And so they have to be put into like a collage, or just a movie that makes very little sense. So that's why we go through this thing that seems like real life, because that's what has to happen for it to be a memory. And so we have these crazy dreams about like a shark trying to kill us if we only saw the beginning of Jaws and not the end. And it has all the things that people have said to us that never came to a conclusion. And once we have those dreams, then it's stored into the cloud, into our unconscious mind, unconscious or subconscious. And then the 10% of our brain that we use is free to function. And it's free to function by being able to go into our unconscious mind and pull information out, like the names that are on the tip of our tongue. Because our conscious mind is like a librarian. But if we try to, when you try to think of something, it's like trying to be a librarian that's going by alphabetical order. And when you just let your unconscious mind do the work and go, okay, I'm not going to think about it anymore, then the Dewey Decimal System comes in, and boom, like a couple hours go by, your mind's thinking about it the whole time, and bang, you'll remember. Oh yeah, it was Tom Selleck, and you'll scream that in the shower. Because they use a Dewey Decimal System, not the alphabetical order, which our dumbasses would like to use. By going, oh, what's that person's name? What's that person's name? But enough about that. Now, what happens when you don't sleep? As you all know, you can't remember jack shit. So that's why it's very important that we do start. I think the main thing is people start sleeping and having deeper sleep. But why psychedelics are being found to be so helpful with neurodegeneration is, I think it's the best way of putting things directly into the cloud, because we are getting to the core of understanding the essence of things. So it's automatically putting things into our unconscious, and we are able to go back and forth. But what they're finding is that the dendrites are not dying off, which are found during neurodegeneration. But dendrites are what makes the connections to the synapses. But the synapses will grow unimpeded until it hits the ceiling. The ceiling is the head of the top of your brain, basically. And once that happens, it calcifies. And when it calcifies, the whole synapse dies and all the memories in it go. And you can't get that back because they're not put into a dormant stage. They're dead. So that's why synaptic pruning have to occur. And this is where these drugs are seeming to be very effective. But what I can't stand is, after reading these articles, it always goes, but finding this in these medications, we may find a medication that's much safer. Safer than hallucinogens? Hallucinogens don't kill anyone. They go, and we want something that doesn't cause hallucinations. Hello? The hallucinations are what making it work so well. Like ibogaine, they go, we're finding a new ibogaine that gets you, because ibogaine cures 70% of people that are hooked on opiates or crystal meth or nicotine. And in 1957, they brought that to the government, and the government goes, we don't want that, because the only people that use that are, I'll say African American people, but they use the N-word because it was 1957. And this is in the files, in the government files that I find in MK Ultra and all the things that they closed due to the Freedom of Information Act. So they knew that ibogaine cured opiate addiction in 57. But they kept that secret all the way until now, and they still have it illegal. They didn't make it illegal because it was a drug or an hallucinogen. What they said was drug dealers are cutting it with ibogaine because it makes heroin stronger, that it potentiates it, which was total bullshit. They didn't want people cured off opiate addiction. And clearly they still don't, because it's still illegal. And no one knows this simple fact that 70%. So now they're making this thing called MC18 or 18-MC, which they're coming out with, which is ibogaine without the hallucinations. And they already have it in stage 3 where they're giving it to people in Canada. But they don't get that the hallucinations and the spiritual thing you have to go through is a thing that helps you. Because during these hallucinations, people say they see people spinning around them and shooting them with needles, and they see the horror that they've done to their life and what life really means. And then they're saying, well, when we did tests with mice, because they do this test for opiate addiction to see how much their tail wiggles and shit. Like, their tail didn't wiggle as much. And they're like, so it must be just as good. So you'll see this medicine does not work. But that's why we cannot let psychedelics be neutered by becoming a medicine. It is a religion or something we need to come to terms with. It's called neurodiversity equality. I don't give a shit about all this equality crap. Because we're all the same. Why do we need to bitch about it anymore? All the big things that we had to get through, we did. And so, but why don't we get on this bandwagon and go, we want equality? Because they said anyone that has neurological diversity should be respected just as much as people with different skin color, religious beliefs, or sexual orientations. So there's three ways that we can go about legalizing psychedelics. First, through its a medical use, then freedom of religion, because obviously it's the divine religious beliefs, and they have the San Domingo religion in South America, and there's lots of them, but we need to build our own. Then there's the one called, then there's the cognitive freedom, there's ID politics, which include neurodiversity paradigm, which you should look up into. Because 100 cities across the country are trying to legalize psychedelics or decriminalize them. More so decriminalize, because legalization they don't want that, because they don't want people thinking for themselves. Because if they do, they'd see through all the bullshit of politics and, and how they're just trying to control us. But only if we work together are we going to get this shit done. We're going to have to play the game of politics, because together we would be the largest group voting bloc in the world, because there's 25 million people use psychedelics in 2010. And since then, psychedelics have gone gangbusters. So I'm sure that's around 40 to 50 million people now that are using. And a lot of people are open to use it but don't have access to DMT. So anyone that's done DMT and has a gram, your job is to, if you've had DMT and it helped you, your job is to help 5 other people get to experience DMT that need its help. Okay? And with that, and also, we need to find a way to all come together under one leadership, one banner. I would love for it to be AE and for me to be part of it, but that's just my ego. But I really don't have an ego. I just think no one else is doing anything to change this. I'm ready to. I'm ready to put, go on a cross and have my hands, put nails through my hands on live TV, if that would make this come about. How many people are willing to say that? But I'm insane, so maybe I'm not the right person for this job. But thank you for listening, and I'm sorry this was all over the place, but this is my first time trying to talk about this shit. Good night, and sorry about the bad pictures on here.